The Mets continued their road trip in the Windy City as they topped the skidding White Sox 5-1 on Friday night. Let's talk some Metropolitan baseball. We're going to do it with the host of the Subway to Shea podcast. My guy Anthony Rivera joins me now. Anthony, Mets had an interesting trip out west. They are trying to continue the winning ways. I know you got to be happy with what they did out west. How are you doing with the Mets' performance recently?
I think I'm treading water just like they are. They did what they needed to do in Arizona. Obviously, when you get a four-game series, you hope to win it, but a split is okay. I'll take what I can against two teams that are ahead of them in the standings.
All right, being pretty level-headed about things, liking where the Mets are, and they will be playing some meaningful games in September. Okay, so Tylor Megill, standout start last night against the White Sox, limiting them to just one run over 6 innings. What did you see differently in his approach or execution that contributed to the bounce-back performance that we saw on Friday night?
Well, Tylor Megill needed that performance in the worst way, and I expected no less versus the worst team in all of baseball in the Chicago White Sox. You know, he got into a little bit of trouble in the first 2 innings of the game, but once the Mets took the lead for good, he got comfortable. He trusted his fastball, and his sinker was working all night. And I have a fellow content creator, Carson from Mets Weekly, big Tylor Megill fan, talks about the weak contact that he's getting, which is great. And the good defense that happened behind Megill, which he normally doesn't get, was very important. You saw that leaping grab from Francisco Lindor and that huge, I guess, that Spider-Man type catch from Tyrone Taylor against the netting. Big game for Tylor Megill, much needed for him.
Yeah, much needed indeed. Big time performance. We'll see if that can continue. But with the win last night, the Mets, they continue to keep pace in their fight for the final wild card spot in the National League. So how critical is this series? I'm saying this, I get it that it's the White Sox, right? I understand that here, folks. But how critical is it for them to keep winning against the White Sox in terms of their postseason aspirations?
Well, we know the Mets struggles against teams that are below them. So the fact that, you know, the Mets are taking care of business against the White Sox, the fact that they're 3 games back of a wild card spot behind the Atlanta Braves, every series from here on out, all through September, is critical. And the White Sox are no less. You have to take care of business against the White Sox. You have to keep pace against the Atlanta Braves. And you and me have talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and the tie breaks and how important they are. They hold a tie break against San Diego. They hold a tie break against Arizona. And now they're going to need to do the same thing against the Braves, which I think they're 5-5 right now. But you hold these tie breaks and you kind of hold the cards in your hands if at some point, you know, we have somewhat of a tie going into, you know, the final week of the season. The Mets are going to need that, especially with how they've struggled against these terrible teams.
Yeah, and you want to see if they can take care of business against a team like the White Sox here. And that brings me to my final question, Anthony, because we've got 2 games left in the series with the White Sox. So people understand the White Sox only have 31 wins on the season. So what should fans be looking out for in the remaining 2 games of the series?
Well, I'm going to use a line from one of my favorite movies, Remember the Titans. Leave no doubt. Take care of business, like I said, against the Chicago White Sox. They're reeling right now. Hey, make them be the worst team in all of baseball in history. Let that moniker be taken away from the 62 Mets. But when it comes to this series this weekend, I need another great performance from Jose Quintana, who delivered in San Diego. That game that they kind of blew wasn't because of Jose Quintana. He pitched very well, pitched deep into the game. You want to see that from him again against a terrible White Sox team. And then you got the ace right now of the staff, Sean Manaea. You want to see Sean Manaea continue his dominance and get to 11 wins and lead this team in wins. And not only that, but lead this team to the postseason come October.
I love it. Leave no doubt. That's what the Mets fans would like to see. Don't play with your food. Take care of business. We'll see if the Mets can do that the rest of this weekend in their series with the White Sox. That is Anthony Rivera, host of the Subway to Shea podcast. Check his work out there. Does such a fantastic job. Anthony, also have to note, love the shirt that you're wearing there today. Shout out to our guy, Jake Brown. Anthony, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Dexter.